And then I met with our MLA, our MP, and Tracy from Port Moody. So I have worked with people. There has been, everything's come to a council meeting. We have been open in our discussions. The recreation grant you referred to was just announced at the UBCM convention at the end of September, and there's a really tight timeline. And last week, Councillor Piamonte said we should put this on the agenda, and I replied back, yes, we're looking into it. We're going to put it on the agenda. It's coming up next week. We're going to talk about it. But we're talking to our staff about it to get some information. That is, you do things outside of a council meeting to get prepared, to bring the item to the council meeting so you have the information so council can make a decision. We all do that. On all our committees we do that. You do your background work, you do your homework, you do your research, and you bring the information forward for a decision. So to suggest that somehow decisions are being made without everyone being included is just not true. They're happening at a council meeting, and that's where they should be happening. And we do our background work, and we have to do that ahead of time. Otherwise, we'd get to a meeting and not know what we're talking about and not be able to make a decision. So yes, you do research ahead of time, and you prepare, and you bring it forward. That's what's going on.
Thank you. Anybody like to respond to that as well?
There were two issues there that were mentioned. One of them was the grant for recreation. I have no problems with that. I mean, it's coming out. I just asked to have it on there. I didn't realize it was being done. The other issue was at the UBCM meeting this year, or last year I should say, the mayor and the other two councillors, other than Senator Green and myself, went and met with the Minister of Community and Social Services concerning the daycare. I was never invited to that, and yet I was on that working group committee, working group for the daycare. And that was not just a slight so much as purposely not invited to it.
Thank you. I think we should move along with the next question directed to the candidate of your choice or to all the candidates. The next question, and please identify yourself.
My name is Glenn Cruz. Would each candidate please tell us their views on Anmore zoning as it relates to density, stating very clearly whether you agree personally with the 1 acre minimum, and also what you feel about CD zoning, particularly as it relates to the Ioko lands.
We'll start with Elaine.
Stated before, state again, I'm strongly in favor of minimum 1 acre zoning. I am not in favor of lot averaging, which apparently is done quite frequently, and many people, even some of the councillors, were unaware of it when it happened. And when it comes to the Ioko lands, I think we need to look at them separately when they arrive. I'm open to suggestions about what may happen with the Ioko lands at that time. They're in a special study area right now.
I'm also in favor of 1 acre zoning. I, along with Elaine, believe that the Ioko lands are going to be a special issue that we'll need to address because there's so much land involved in that particular area that it would be foolish of us to try and set some kind of guidelines before they come to us and give us an idea of what they're looking at. Just in response to the other question previous to this one, this is one of the reasons why I felt I needed to run is the transparency, the lack of cooperation and respect of what's been going on for the last few years has motivated me to get involved. So thank you for everybody coming out. Let's all get involved.
I support the OCP. It's more relevant because it's a collaboration of residents and if their ideas and visions for their village. The OCP helps guide not only this council, but councils well into the future so that we have some continuity. It's not a concept in principle, but I think that I of course support the 1 acre idea, but the OCP is a more overriding. Thank you.
I support the 1 acre concept. I do nevertheless support the OCP, which is brought forth from the people. It will be up for review, I would imagine, in the next year. present council over the last 3 years only faced one CD application, which was unanimously turned down over the past 3 years. I also was one of the only councillors on council to vote against a 2-parcel subdivision less than 2 acres. And so I do, those are my thoughts.
What I think is not really important. It's what you think is important. And that's why I support the community plan. There's a new one coming up. We expect you to contribute to it. That's what's going to be important, and that's what I'll support. Thank you.
So the 1 acre concept, I know that there was a referendum that dealt with that quite a few years ago, and the majority supported 1 acre, and that's reflected in our OCP. And I know that we are up for review with our OCP shortly, and I think that the great thing about that is that we need to get back to the idea of the Anmore concept, and not just the 1 acre concept, which I do support via the referendum and our official community plan. We need to look at our overall community plan and different neighborhoods, which is something I touched on in my opening speech, and how we want those neighborhoods to develop. I know that Glenn Coots had asked about CD zoning. We do have CD zones in Anmore. I think that the previous councils took public input on those and developed those neighborhoods in consultation with the public, and I would expect us to do the same thing moving forward. And as for the Ioko lands, that is a special zone, and I think it needs a lot of consideration. I personally don't believe in waiting for the developer to come to us. I think that Anmore as a community needs to look at our long-term vision and what we want in our community, and to lay down some guidelines, and that's what the official community plan is for, and I'm excited to be able to work on that over the next few years.
Well, I'm definitely in favor of 1 acre remaining as the standard in the village, and that's what we moved out here for. And aside from all this stuff about the government and that, it really takes away from the focus about what I would like to do on council, which is with regard to maintaining the 1 acre. You talk about the OCP and the province is there, but it's not adhered to. Like Pinnacle Ridge, which is part of the OCP, the steep slope in there, but they're allowing development. We have a vote for a sign on Pinnacle Ridge, and there's a clause in the bylaw which says that developer can have a larger than ordinary sign. And that should be enough, but Mr. McEwen and Ms. Isaak, for some reason, a couple weeks ago, vote to allow an oversized sign. And I say, what does that message send to people outside the village? That we want steep slope development? No. I think we want to remain with the 1 acre concept. And that's
I've always been in favor of the 1 acre concept. I was on the original Anmore, the Advisory Planning Commission that came up with the CD zoning case, and in fact, Herb Bugle's land was the first one. There was 6 houses and 5 acres. That's what it meant it to be. It sort of blew up from there, and we ended up having half-acre lots and whatever. We've had 5 CD zones. We haven't had any since, and as Mr. McEwen mentioned, we did all unanimously turn down the last one. We basically got sort of a moratorium on that. The other area that we will have to be dealing with is the Ioko lands, but we have a problem there too. We have it, it's been classified as a special study area, although we have a rural designation. That means we still have 1 acre zoning. However, on the other side of the boundary, there is just as much land in Anmore on the Port Moody side. And you can see that there's going to be pressure on us. They may end up having low rise, they may have high rise, they may have condos, they may have also, duplexes, who knows what type of development there. We have to keep in mind that we also have to worry about how we hook up the water. It has to come from Port Moody. How do we hook up? We have to have sewers there unless we stay with the 1 acre. We have to have our normal, our own septic systems. So that is a special area. That's going to be taking an awful lot of time and effort to come up with something that's suitable for Anmore, but meshes in with what's going to happen on the other side. You can't have 1 acre on one side high rises and the other. That's sort of an extreme case, but I think you get the idea.
I support our official community plan and our current zoning bylaws, and because of all the work that's gone into from the public, it takes about a year to review those documents, and it's a lot of review, a lot of consultation and public input by our advisory committees and through residents being part of public discussions and workshops. And we last reviewed the plan in 2005, so it is time to review that again. With IOCO, again, we talked about that with our planner, Michael Rosen, a number of years ago, and it makes sense to do an area-specific OCP for that area. So it's, again, looking at the land, looking at what are some of the areas that need to be protected and what are some of the areas that make more sense for development. So again, until you do that work, it's really hard to say what should go there, but again, it would have to fit within our overall plan in Anmore. I just want to correct something that Mr. Barron said. Pinnacle Ridge is a standard 1 acre subdivision. It fits within our bylaws, our current OCP and zoning bylaw. They have asked for nothing that is not allowed for in zoning. It has not come to council because there haven't been any relaxations or anything. And that's true, Mr. Barron. You can make, no, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm talking about Mr. Barron. Yes, it is a steep slope area, but there's environmental controls and protections placed on that. Our staff has looked at that very, very carefully. We are concerned about that development, and we are monitoring it closely, but it fits within what they're allowed to do.
I have a question for Mr. Laidler, but respectfully, I asked the moderator if you could ask Mr. Barron to behave himself and act responsibly. He has taken shots.
We'll move on. Let's ask the question.
I have a question for Mr. Laidler. How do you believe that your work working for the Vancouver City Police facilitates the work they're hoping to do for Anmore Council?
I've been a police officer in Vancouver. Excuse me. I've been a police officer in Vancouver for the past 30 years, and the last seven, I've held the rank of inspector. And there were 6 core competencies that I had to meet. They required leadership, coaching, communication, community focus, resource management, problem solving, and decision making. And these competencies were critical in the leadership positions I held. The last 2 years in charge of the jail, prior to that, our communication centre, prior to that, the Sexual Offences Squad, and prior to that, our District 4 Patrol Section. Of all those, the most important is communication, and that's what I want to bring to Anmore Council. And communication is not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. And what I say really isn't very important. It's what the people say. That's why in Vancouver we held community forums to get feedback and understand what the real needs of the community was. And I think that is what I will really try and bring forward and emphasize as a member of the Anmore Council. I need to hear from you. We need to hear from you. And that's the way we're going to move forward. Thank you. Thank you.
This question is for Larry Barron. Mr. Barron, you're the lawyer for your wife in a lawsuit against the village and changes made to the procedure bylaw. This was done in a democratic way. You know, majority rules. Now, by suing the village, you are technically suing all of us. You now ask to vote for you. To this date, it has cost us taxpayers over $19,000. So my question is, if elected, you have the right to change that bylaw. So would you cancel your lawsuit and repay the village the money it has had to spend defending itself against your ridiculous lawsuit?
Well, first of all, where did you find out about the $19,000?
I don't think that's any of your concern.
Well, it's confidential, and we're all told here about leaks, so where did you find out?
Mr. Barron, answer the question.
Answer the question.
Can we answer it in my own way?
No, you can answer the question.
Well, let's talk about it. There's a lawsuit out here because what they did was in closed council chambers initially, they decided that they were going to accuse a couple of people of leaks. And they went to court and they couldn't prove a single leak.
That's not the question I asked you.
Well, you're asking about the lawsuit, aren't you?
No, I asked you if you're going to repay the money.
Are you going to rescind the bylaw?
Oh, Dan, no. I'm not. Was
That was the question that I wanted. You're showing what we would elect. I can see that. Thank you.
We're saying vote for that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tracy, and I'm not here to attack anybody. There have been various successful self-development within the GBRD over the last few years, Lions Bay, West Vancouver, Northbound, etc. And they all have sewage and runoff management plans in place. Is Anmore being responsible enough in initiating a plan? And if elected, how are you going to prevent the Pinnacle Ridge event from happening again?
Okay, I need a clear question. To each candidate, is that?
From each candidate, yes please. If elected, have you planned on preventing disasters such as the Pinnacle Ridge?
Well, that assumes it is a disaster.
It was.
All right.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so why don't you start?
Well, I think
The
it
left
would
of the
be
right.
a little more